Hey, what's going on, guys? Rob from Heroes Avenue. Today I wanted to give you guys a walkthrough of how I created my Black Manta helmet. Now, this costume and this helmet itself in this video is not complete just yet, but I did think I have enough footage and detail here to give you guys a video and a walkthrough of how I did it. And I am no professional cosplayer by any means, but I do have fun making these costumes. I've made costumes in the past. If you've been following our channel or our Instagram account for any for a bit of time now, you'll know that I'll usually mention on some offhand remark that I made a costume for an event that I had over the weekend. This is the first time where I was like, man, let me just go ahead and film this and show the channel what I've been up to. So before I get into the how-to of this video, I do want to mention a couple things that you are going to need to buy, or some things that you're going to need to buy in order to make or replicate what I put together over here just for the Black Manta helmet. You're going to need EVA foam. And all the stuff you can find on Amazon. EVA foam. You're going to need craft foam. You're going to need Mod Podge to seal the EVA foam after you form it. You're going to need a hot glue gun, and obviously the glue or contact cement. You're going to want some sort of heat gun, so that way you can seal up the EVA foam. And you're going to need 2 squirrel baffles to form the shape of the head. And you're going to need the lights, which you'll see, all the stuff I pretty much bought on Amazon. The lights you'll see, I just looked up red LED lights. So this is relatively inexpensive. The part that you're not going to see in the video is me drilling into the squirrel baffles after I put them together. You're not going to see that part because I did do it in my coworker's workshop. He had a Dremel, and I kind of just drew out the outlines, and I'll kind of mention it during the video, but I drew out the outlines and drilled into it, and I got to learn how to use a Dremel. I never used one in my life, but I definitely think I did a good job on making the eyes. And keep in mind, guys, you're going to be able to get creative in how you make these things. You don't have to do it exactly my way. You can get totally creative and use other materials, but this is just how I did it. And without any further ado, let's go ahead and see how I did it. Okay, what you see here is 2 squirrel baffles hot glued together. I drew on the baffles to form the shapes of the eye and where I would put my head inside. So I drilled on the bottom and I drilled into the eyes, and I had to drill on the top there, on top of the head, because there was something on the baffles that I needed to take out. And I put some EVA foam on the bottom inside, and I'm thinking about putting this on top of the helmet to just give it a little garnish. I did tape the insides of the eyes because they were kind of sharp after drilling into them, and I did the same thing where I would put my head inside of the helmet. So I put some EVA foam or some craft foam down there just to give it a little cushion and add a little bit of garnishing. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to tape the inside of the helmet just so I can spray paint the helmet black, so it gets that color I want. And I'm putting the tape there so I can easily rip it off later and not paint the inside of the helmet at the same time. So you'll see me take this helmet outside in just a second after I'm done taping it up, making sure I don't get paint on the inside of the helmet. And I'm going to be using some black spray paint, some flat black spray paint. And right here I just kind of made a makeshift stand in my backyard. I just used a stick with like a boxing glove on it, and I propped the helmet on top of there, and I'm spraying away. And I would recommend you guys get a face mask if you do spray paint, because this is not the safest way to do it. You don't want to be holding your breath like I am here. But as you can see, the tape is making sure that there's no paint inside of the helmet when I'm doing this. So it turned out pretty good. Okay, we are now in my garage, and I'm going to put the eyes on now. So what you're going to see here is me getting ready to put Mod Podge on the eyes, because so far I've formed the eyes with craft foam. I've hot glued the pieces of craft foam together. Now I'm heating it up, because before you Mod Podge anything, you want to make sure you heat it up. That way it expands the craft foam, and then when you put the Mod Podge on it, it kind of seals all those things in. And I'm doing that just in case I paint it, but it does also make it easier to form. Now for the eyes, I did use red filing folders, see-through filing folders. They're not the best to see through, but they are something that really works to make that red eye, and it looks pretty cool. I should mention that on the bottom of the helmet, I did use a sports cone, and I just hot glued on the inside. That way I could put my head comfortably in there. So right now I'm mixing the Mod Podge together, and I'm taking the eye, and as you can see, I am just painting. I'm not doing it the best way, because ideally, you know, I would have a desk to put these on and let them air dry. I was actually doing this in a time constriction. I was trying to work on this right before work, and I only had an hour to do so. So I was really rushing things here. Things got a little bit messy, messier than I wanted to, but hey, I'm not taking it way too seriously. I just want to make a cool looking helmet. It doesn't have to even be the most perfect thing in the world, but by all means, if you want to make it perfect, you make it perfect. Now, I'm also, as I mentioned, I'm considering putting that garnish on top, just another piece of craft foam, and I kind of just cut it out by eye. I'm pretty good at that, I think. Again, it's not going to look perfect, but I think it'll look cool on top of here, so I'm kind of like forming it with the heat gun. The heat gun is really good for forming craft foam into the shapes you want it, so I'm just kind of eyeballing it, seeing how it's going to look, and now I'm cutting it because I could see that it's a little uneven. Again, this is by no means a perfect costume, but if I had planned it out earlier, if I didn't have time restrictions on working with this costume, then I would have definitely drawn it out on some paper first, then cut it out after I traced it onto the craft foam. But for time restrictions, this is going to work. So again, I made it as perfect as I could, and it's going to be pretty cool. I'm putting the Mod Podge on it. It's going to make it look a little bit more black, but it's going to be a different black than the black that I actually painted, because the craft foam is just like an off black, and I think it's going to look pretty cool on the helmet, having two different blacks on the helmet at the same time, so not everything is just one color. So when you put Mod Podge on, it usually takes about 20 minutes to actually dry up. So as you can see here, I'm kind of looking at this one eye, and it looks to be dried up right now. And I'm kind of looking at which eye I want to use for which side of the helmet. And I'm over here I didn't make them perfect. So I'm really working hard here to try to figure out which side I want to put each eye on. Again, if you guys have more time, you can make it way more perfect than I did, but for the time I had, I think it looks pretty cool so far. One tip I do have for you guys is to make sure to wear gloves. At this point, I got one eye on. I did burn my finger at one point during filming this and making this at the same time. So just be careful when you're making your costumes, especially if it's one of the first costumes you've made, because this is definitely only my third costume that I've made. So I definitely have had those or made those rookie mistakes while making these. So I'm just making sure everything is dry. Again, in a time constraint, I'm trying to make sure I don't ruin the helmet, but I'm also trying to put out a quality helmet here too. So in a second, I'm going to finish the garnishings for the helmet, or that top garnishing that I was thinking about earlier. Now I know I definitely want to put it on. So here's what the helmet looks like right now. I just got done hot gluing the eyes on, and I'm going to hot glue the little garnish that I was cutting out earlier and that I Mod Podged earlier. I'm going to put it on the top of the helmet before I give it a test run, and it did take quite a few layers of hot glue, and I did put some contact cement that I had from my last costume. I put some contact cement on there to make sure it stays, and this is going to cover the hole that was on top of that squirrel baffle. Again, I needed to make that hole because there was something there on the original squirrel baffle. There was this little thing sticking out, and I had to cut it out to make it look smooth. So here it goes, and I think it makes the helmet look that much more better. And again, I'm taking off some little things that are hanging off of the craft foam, because I did just cut it out with scissors. Ideally, you'd want to use an X-Acto knife, and that way you get that much more of a precise cut. And it didn't want to stick on here for a second, but hey, if you put more and more hot glue on, eventually the thing will stick. At least that's my philosophy. So here it is, looking pretty good. Now, what you see here is an LED clip with the red lights that I found on Amazon for like 14 bucks. And I'm going to clip it to the inside of that sports cone that I
glued on the inside of the helmet, so that way I can put my head inside and the helmet stays stabilized. Now, as you can see, it adds a pretty cool effect. You can't really see my face, and it adds that nice glow that Black Manta's helmet usually has in the comics, and what it looks to have in the movie. And you can't really tell from right now, but it is not easy to see in this thing. I'm over here closing the door, that way you can see, so you can see the effect. But the lights are on the back side of my head. I put them in the back of my head, and I can see fine enough, but it's not the most easy to see out of. Okay guys, that's it for this video. Hit the thumbs up if you like this video. Leave any questions or comments about the tutorial in the comments below, and stay tuned for more. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.